Hello and welcome to this episode of Macro Sutra. I'm Akanksha Mishra. India has seen a moderation in the credit growth, that is, the amount that's being lent by banks in the form of credit or loans this year as compared to the last year. Now, to discuss whether this moderation is driven by a decline in bank liquidity or consumer demand or a mix of both, we have with us Radhika Pandey, Associate Professor at NIPFP. Thank you so much for being with us, Radhika.
Thank you, Akanksha.
Now let's get right into it and start off with what are the two segments that have caused a decline in the credit growth rate of banks? And what are the reasons behind this decline, obviously?
So, as you rightly said, bank credit has moderated. So, overall, the non food bank credit has grown at a rate of 12% for the fortnight ending 21st Feb, as compared to more than 16% last year. And when we see the components, what has been the drivers of this moderation, we see that the two components which were earlier responsible for the sharp increase in credit growth post COVID, those two factors are now seeing a moderation. So, if we go back 2 years back after COVID, what we saw was that there was a pent up demand, and therefore, to finance the pent up demand, there was an increase in retail credit, that is, credit borrowings by households to meet their pent up demand and also to smoothen their consumption because income levels had fallen. So, to smooth their consumption, they relied on borrowings from banks. So for 2 years after COVID, we saw household loans, retail loans, personal loans rising by, in strong double-digit growth, rising by 20%, and also bank lending to NBFCs, that is, non-bank financial companies. This lending was also rising at a sharp pace because NBFCs were again lending to consumers, some niche consumers for some sectors like auto loans and so on. So these were the two segments, that is, namely the retail loans and loans to services, and within services, primarily loans to NBFCs, that were the key drivers of growth post COVID. And now we are seeing that there is deceleration, which is mostly, we can say, is a normalization. We are now moving back to a trend, and therefore, as compared to last year, there seems to be a moderation in again personal loans as well as loans to NBFCs. So, and as regards the reason that you mentioned, because of the sharp surge in credit, what was happening was that the RBI got concerned because there could be, when there is a very strong growth in credit, banks tend to become aggressive in lending to retail customers. And what we saw was that there was a sharp increase in unsecured personal loan, and some of that was turning into NPAs, non-performing assets. And therefore, in late November 2023, the RBI increased the risk weights of banks exposure to NBFCs and banks exposure to unsecured personal loan. So that made banks more cautious that, okay, now RBI is asking us to limit this lending, and therefore the impact of this was visible from the second half of 2024. That is, it takes some
Hmm.
time for the regulatory impact to kick in. So after 6-7 months, particularly from June July of 2024, we saw that personal loans and unsecured personal loans and loans to NBFCs started to decline, and it's declined even further as per the recent data.
Great. And the article also mentions that there's been an uptick in gold loans.
Yes.
So, what does this indicate about the kind of loans that people are choosing to take and also the ones that banks are willing to give?
Yes, so it's a parallel development. So on the one side, we are seeing that unsecured personal loans like credit card spending, auto loans, these are all seeing a decline. And on the other side, gold loans have increased. So if we just look at the drivers of personal loans, all the drivers, all the components of personal loans are declining, and the gold loan component is rising. In fact, it's risen for the last few months at above 60%, 70, 80%, and so on. So there are two main reasons. One is that there is a shift in the composition of personal loans from unsecured to secured, and it's easy to get loans by pledging your gold jewelry. So it's easy and it's a fast dispersal of loan. That is one, because banks find it more safer to lend on the collateral of gold jewelry rather than giving an unsecured loan, given that RBI has increased the risk weights on unsecured personal loan, and also that there was some evidence of non-performing assets, bad loans emerging in the unsecured personal loan category. So that is one reason that it's more safer. And from the consumer side also, because the gold prices have risen exorbitantly over the last couple of months, in sync with the looming uncertainty. We have seen that gold prices have sharply risen. It's by pledging a small amount of jewelry, you can get more loan. So that is also one reason. So these two reasons have led to a sharp surge in gold loans over the last couple of months, and the rate of increase is similar to what we saw during COVID. So interestingly, even during COVID time, for some months we saw that gold loan was rising, and that was particularly an indication of distressed borrowing. Because at that time, for health reasons and for precautionary motive, for because of loss of jobs, people were pledging their gold and taking loans to finance their consumption. But this time around, it's mainly due to this structural shift that we are seeing in the composition of personal loans from unsecured to secured, and also due to the increase in gold prices, and also the fact that it's easier to get loans, it is easy lending.
Yeah.
So all these three factors in conjunction have led to a sharp increase in gold loans.
So, Radhika, you mentioned the role of RBI a
Right.
lot in the past couple of answers. So, let's just take a broader look at it. How have RBI's regulatory measures changed the credit structures for NBFCs, for the retail sector? What has been the effect of RBI?
Yes. So as I said, because of the sharp increase in unsecured personal loans and bank lending to NBFCs, earlier RBI expressed its concern that you need to be cautious about lending to unsecured personal loans, because part of this could turn into bad loans in the form of rising NPAs. Because during the global financial crisis, we saw that there was a sharp increase in non-performing assets, and that time the reason was industrial loans and infrastructure loans. And then we saw that from 2012 onwards, there was an improvement in asset quality. So RBI, as a regulator, did not want another episode of increase in delinquency and increase in bad loans. So RBI introduced these preemptive measures of increasing in risk weights. That means that for any loan that you are giving to unsecured personal loans or to NBFCs, you have to set aside a higher proportion of capital. So that tends to discourage banks from giving loans to these categories, because the cost of lending tends to rise. So that was the role. And now, because bank lending to NBFCs has seen a sharp decline, at least that regulatory measure has been reversed by the new governor. February end, the RBI has reversed the increase in risk weights, what was announced in November 2023. That risk weight has been reversed now, and now again, from earlier it was increased from 100 to 125. It has been again reversed back from 125 to 100. So for bank lending to NBFCs, it has been reversed, but the increased risk weights for unsecured personal loans still remain in place. And so therefore there is this element of caution and concern that banks need to be wary of lending too much to unsecured personal loans, and that is what is visible in the entire structure also of personal loans.
And that's where we come to the retail sector now. So, can you tell us which section of consumers has been most affected by this lack of availability of credit in the retail sector?
Yes. So if we look at the sectoral deployment of bank credit data, we don't get that insight, as to which consumers in particular are impacted. But there are these reports by TransUnion CIBIL, which shed insights into the nature of consumers who are being impacted by this lack of credit availability, or more precisely, this cautious approach by lenders. So it says that, for the December quarter, so it's a quarterly report. For the December quarter, the October-December quarter, the loan growth for new to credit customers, those customers who do not have a credit history, in prior credit history, their loan demand or loan growth to such kind of customers fell drastically in the December quarter. Now, who are these customers who are the new to credit customers? Most of them are young people, those who are born after 1995, the Gen Z customers. So these customers are feeling the pinch of this cautious attitude. The existing credit customers are also seeing a decline in retail loans, but not to the extent that is being seen for new to credit customers. So their credit card spends, their the issuance of credit cards, the spending on credit cards, consumer credit in the form of auto loan, all the various components of personal loans for new to credit customers has seen a decline as per the TransUnion CIBIL, the credit bureau report. So it raises this concern. As of now, it's fine that banks are cautious, but going forward, if there is a continued limitation on availability of credit, it could impinge upon the purchasing power and demand further, which is right now it's still a subdued demand. Urban demand is still sluggish. So this, especially for those consumers who are new to credit consumers, they have seen a sharp decline in credit availability.
Now, there's a delicate balance between credit and deposit that banks need to maintain at all times. But we have seen in India that despite credit growth slowing down, it's still higher than deposit growth. So, what problems does this ratio pose, and how exactly are our banks tackling this?
Yeah, so that's a very interesting point. So when you talk about credit and deposit growth in conjunction, we can talk about credit deposit ratio, which is loan to deposit ratio or credit deposit ratio. And here we see a very interesting contrast between public sector and private sector bank. So what's been happening is that the credit deposit ratio of some of the private sector banks is quite high. It's almost touching 100%. It's above 90. For HDFC in particular, it was 100%, and that is mostly to do with the merger that happened between the HDFC and bank and its housing finance arm. But for other private sector banks also, the credit deposit ratio was still the previous quarter quite high, because they were lending to retail personal loan. Their net interest margins were also more comfortable, higher than the public sector counterpart. Now we are seeing that because of this high CD ratio of private sector bank, RBI expressed concern that unless you have a deposit base, it's not possible to sustain a very high credit deposit ratio, because deposits are used to are used to finance credit growth, or alternatively banks will have to borrow funds from other high cost sources like issuance of certificates of deposits, which actually happened in the March month. Because if we look at the recent data, the reliance of banks on borrowing through certificates of deposits, which is a money market instrument, it rose very high. The amount that is being borrowed, outstanding amount is 5.3 lakh crore through the issuance of certificates of deposit. So it tells us about the tightness. It tells us about the high credit deposit ratio. Even though, if we look at the credit and deposit growth, now credit growth is moderating, deposit growth is rising. So the gap between credit and deposit growth is narrowing, but it is still there. And there is, as I said, interesting contrast between public sector banks and private sector banks, where private sector bank CD ratio, credit deposit ratio is quite high. So it needs to be brought down, it needs to be normalized, and that is what we anticipate will happen in the coming quarters, that the focus will now shift to deposits, to build the deposit base. Because unless you build the deposit base, it is not possible to sustain a high credit ratio and a credit deposit ratio, and it's not possible to keep relying on uh, certificates of deposits. So that's what is the dynamics, and the same holds true for public sector banks as well, that overall the system credit deposit ratio is now going to be stabilized around 78 to 80%.
Okay. And now, finally, can we have a broad forecast of how loans, credits, and the credit deposit ratio is going to look like in this coming year?
Yeah, so that's important because, as I said, in the credit deposit ratio, there are two constituents, your credit and deposit. Now, what's is likely going to happen is that the focus will shift to building the deposit base, because there have been very high credit deposit ratios for some of the banks in order to finance the sharp surge in demand for unsecured personal loan. Banks were aggressively lending to the personal loan component because industrial loan remained tepid, private investment remains tepid. So there was a increase in supply of loans to a personal loan component. So they will try to build their deposit. That is one. And on so that is the denominator, which is the deposit. On the credit side, the unsecured personal loans are likely to remain sluggish because of this cautious attitude, and also because of the fact that the urban demand currently remains sluggish. We've seen some high frequency indicators like the projection for auto sales in the coming year by SIAM. It says that it's not going to be very high, and it is again reflecting a normalization, because we've seen high numbers for auto sales, and now it's normalizing. So growth will not be more than 2 to 3%. So if there is less demand, if there is sluggishness in urban demand, it is not likely that personal loan credit component will see a very sharp surge. So deposit focus will increase, and given this volatility in markets, there will be greater appeal for fixed deposits, which actually lost appeal during this period after COVID, when markets were giving high returns on a sustained basis. Now we are seeing a reversal. So the appeal of deposits for household is going to increase. So deposits will rise and credit will fall. That is the outlook. Not fall, but it will likely remain in the 10 to 12% range
Okay.
for FY26. And the CD ratios, the credit deposit ratios, will also tend to become more stable in the 78 to 82% range. Also in line with the rate cutting cycle, because now we've seen that RBI has already cut rates once, and now in the April policy also it's expected that policy repo rate would be cut. So all these factors in conjunction would ensure that credit growth is likely to be normalized at 10 to 12%, and CD ratio around 78 to 82%.
That's great. Now, I think it's time for some audience questions. So, the first one is by Aditya. He asks, do you think with growing concern over default in personal loan, banks have become more concerned in terms of dispersing loans to households? Has RBI become more vigilant of it? Are there any reforms that RBI is planning to bring in with respect to this?
So, absolutely, as we talked about earlier, also that banks have turned more cautious about unsecured personal loan because of the regulatory tightening that was introduced in November 2023, where the risk weights for banks' exposure to unsecured personal loans was increased, and there were some pockets of stress emerging in unsecured personal loan, particularly in credit card spending. So we've seen, even if we look at the data for credit card spends and the issuance of credit card, the year-on-year growth has reduced. So overall, there is this caution, and that is expected to continue in the current year as well, where unsecured personal loans will get moderated, and there would be a shift towards secured personal loans, and therefore we are seeing a rise in gold loan. But there, in fact, again, RBI is again becoming concerned about that also, and it has actually told banks to to review their policies regarding gold loans. How much quality control that you are doing regarding the collateral, and all the policies regarding gold loans need to be bolstered. So that the concern is that any overheating in any component of credit should not lead to emergence of stress or lead to increase in delinquency.
Right. The next question is by Saurabh. He asks, with government initiatives to boost consumption, will retail credit slow down as people will have more cash in their hands?
So there are two factors here. One is, yes, there will be more cash in hand, but that is something that will play out in the long run. And it's also important to understand the profile of consumers who are borrowing and for what purpose they are borrowing. So as I mentioned about this TransUnion CIBIL report, where the supply of credit for the new to credit customers has seen a decline. So that could impinge upon consumption, because if there is a decline in credit availability for young consumers, that will have an impact on demand as well. So on the one side, while the fiscal policy measures that were introduced in budget will give a boost to consumption in the medium term, it's not going to have an immediate impact. It will have an impact in the medium term. But on the other side, this cautious approach towards unsecured personal loans is likely to continue. And actually, it's a good thing. It's actually a normalization, because there was this, you cannot have an episode of unsecured personal loans rising at 25% growth for a sustained basis. So this downturn was expected, and it is in the right direction, that it's kind of a normalization that we are seeing.
Now, finally, we have a question by Sasha, which we have answered before, but I think this will give us a broad way to end the session. How do you think the recent liquidity concern in banking sector would affect credit growth?
Yeah, a very important question again. So there were this concern about liquidity that we've spoken about in our earlier episodes, because of the intervention that the RBI did in the second half of FY25, which led to liquidity constraint, because RBI sucked up the supply of rupees and so on. But in the last few months, we have seen that RBI has introduced a series of measures to boost liquidity, which includes a cut in the cash reserve ratio, which includes a series of open market operations. In fact, yesterday they announced another round of open market operations, where buying of government bonds and infusing liquidity. So, and now we are seeing whatever initial data we are seeing, now the liquidity deficit has actually turned into surplus. So going forward, liquidity is not likely to be a concern, because the seasonal year-end problems about liquidity tightness have now kind of eased, because now we are in a new financial year, and the various measures that were announced to boost liquidity, that will help in boosting liquidity, and overall system liquidity would be in surplus. So liquidity is not likely to act as a constraint in boosting credit. It's actually the cautious attitude towards some categories of retail loans and the demand. So these are the two factors going forward that will influence the trajectory of credit growth.
That's great. I hope that answered your question, Sasha, and it'll be a great note to end this episode with. Thank you so much for tuning into The Print.